And one of the things that stood out to me is proximity is power. When you get in the right room with the right people, it moves your needle.
Yeah.
It really does.
Hello, everyone. This is James Harper. This week's episode of the Real Estate Halftime Show is going to be very unique. We're going to go a little bit different direction this week. We're going to get into leadership in the real estate industry. We're going to talk about coolness factors within different brokerages. We're going to talk also a little bit about the market, of course, and we're going to be kind of all over the place, but we're live right here in Hendersonville, our secret headquarters, even though we gave it away this week. And have a special guest, Dwyer. And so stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It's time for the Real Estate Halftime Show. Sit back, relax, and listen to Nashville's premier inside scoop to real estate with the mortgage extraordinaire himself, James Harper.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the listeners out there, the Real Estate Halftime Show, while you're driving down the road or you're heading to wherever you may be going next, we're glad you've tuned in to talk everything and anything about real estate here in Nashville and beyond. We're going to talk locally, but also nationally. Have a very special guest that I've known for quite a long time here in the studio, Dwyer. So welcome. Thank you for joining the show and being a part of us today and sharing some of your knowledge about the business.
Well, James, I appreciate that, man. Thanks for having me. It's been trying to get on this. Yeah, been trying to get on this thing for a minute. So thanks for making a hole and let me get in here. I'm excited.
Well, we ask for any and all subscribers. So get into Aaron's network, watch him, subscribe to us, and let's dive right in. So I always kind of start the show and say, hey, we didn't just fall into real estate yesterday because we woke up and said, hey, this is what I want to do when I grow up. I was an engineer in the past. Audience has definitely known and heard that. But what made you jump into real estate, and what was your past life like? What was your previous chapter in life?
Yeah, I ask myself that question all the time. Why real estate? No, I'm kidding. I born and raised in Nashville, Nashville native, was a Metro Nashville Police Department officer actually for about 13 years. Did everything from patrol to canine, gave SWAT a chance, and I finished my bachelor's degree in 2001. And when I finished my bachelor's degree, I decided that I didn't want to be a police officer anymore. My personality, if I can't be in charge, I don't want to do it. And I never wanted to be the chief. So
sounds familiar to me.
There was another place I needed to go. And so I started flipping houses in 2005 and got into flipping houses. I'd done things for my grandmother. I think she was a real estate mogul in my younger years. And so I would always work on her houses and learned how to do plumbing and things like that. So I started flipping houses and decided after a couple that I could probably do what that real estate agent did to sell those houses. And that's a pretty common introduction to the real estate business.
I think so, yeah.
Hey, I can do that. And they're going to make that much money. Let me get my license. And so while I was a police officer, I went to school. This was before online really took off, so I had to go to school.
The
did that
hard
in
way.
the evenings. Yep, did that in the evening. So I got my license in 2006 and started my career at Remax Elite down in Brentwood, and did it. That's how I got into real estate business. I was just looking for a way out of the police department.
And when did you go completely full time?
Wasn't until 2013.
2013.
It took me 7 years to really to dive in both feet. Of course, kids and family and life and being scared, a lot of the same, those same experiences a lot of agents have now. They want to do it. They see the potential in it, right? It looks super easy on TV. Home and HGTV makes this business look really, really easy.
No kidding.
And so, in that vein, it was really hard for me to go commission only. I was used to that every other week paycheck. I was used to that government job, and so it took me a minute to really pull the trigger, but I was putting time and effort into it. I was putting time and effort into my real estate business, and I started to recognize the momentum and started to see that it was starting to move a little bit.
So what made you jump? What made you jump in 2013? I love always having these kinds of conversations because we talk about it a lot on the show. It's more than just being you can't do the business part-time. Obviously, you did it from 2006 to 2017. And you realized at some point, I can't do this part-time because, number one, my clients probably know.
Yep.
Even as much as you try to hide it.
Oh, my gosh.
But when you're not in it and you're not available and you're not don't have the wherewithal to follow through a lot of times because you're distracted with other things.
Yeah.
Distractions are huge in this business on the mortgage side and the real estate side. So what made you finally say, man, I give, I got to just jump into this?
So I'll go back to what I just said a second ago. If I'm not the one in charge, I don't like doing it. And so I was working for a company here locally, W-2 job, making good money. I was making six figures. I'm traveling the country. I'm doing design, build, commercial construction. Really enjoyed it. But I didn't like the manager. I didn't like the sales manager. And so I would do my real estate business on my iPad on the table. And then I would have my regular computer to do my W-2 job. And sorry, that's if you're listening to this, Kevin, sorry about that. But I was doing pretty good, so you couldn't complain about that because I've made pretty good money. And it was July. I'll never forget this. It was July. There was a sales meeting. And the sales manager that I was working for said something off the wall crazy about some expectation that he had that was based on something in the ethers, right? And I just said, I'm done. And I shut my computer. I walked down the hallway. And I said, boys, I'm out. And because the conversation I had had with my wife at the time was, I'm leaving a lot of money on the table here. I can see how this business is starting to track. I can see how the momentum is starting to build. And yeah, I'm making six figures. Yeah, it's good. But I could make $300,000 if I go into real estate full time. I mean, I'm leaving a lot of money on the table. And she said, give me a plan. Because she pushed back a lot of years, but she said, you come up with a plan where you can replace that income, and I'm all for it. And I did. I found a guy here locally that helped me get a plan together. I put the plan together, and he said, look, it's simple. This real estate business, it's not easy, but it is simple. Mm-hmm. If you do this and do it consistently, you'll make that money.
So what are the top three things you do consistently that still hold true today?
Oh, I think it boils down to you got to talk to people. And I say this to agents all the time in my coaching platform. It's super, super easy. You talk to 5 people about real estate, 5 unique conversations, 5 days a week, and you do that 10 months out of the year, and you'll make $300,000 a year in this business. Super easy. That's number one. Mm-hmm. Number 2,
love it.
You've got to be number 1 at something. You've got to be the mayor of your neighborhood. You've got to be number 1 at your kid's soccer team. You've got to be number 1 at something. And you've got to be the face of that number 1. And then number 3, don't be afraid to ask for referrals. Go do a good job, and don't be afraid to ask for referrals.
Those are really good ones, actually, by the way. Asking for referrals is probably the toughest one for anybody. You assume, we all assume that someone's just going to say, hey, James did a good job for me, and they're going to tell their coworker, they're going to tell their family member. But as soon as that transaction is done, they've already forgot about you. So staying top of mind is always the toughest part. But why not ask for the referral right when they're the most excited? We don't do it. So if there's any nugget out there that listeners are listening to today that are real estate agents or really any sales job, sales job, this doesn't have to be real estate. Ask for referrals.
So I'm gonna give you a scary stat, and I teach this in one of my coaching. 86% of home buyers would use their agent again if they could only remember their name.
Wow, we're gonna have to highlight that on the video.
If they could only remember their name.
Sergio. Big bomb go off.
Yeah, because they wait. The typical. You know this. I mean, you see this in your business. The typical referral process is this. I'm going to mention it at the beginning when I first meet you. If I'm thinking about referrals, I'm going to mention it when we first set expectations, when we first get the paperwork signed, when we decide we're going to work together, you're going to be my client and I'm going to be your agent. We'll have that conversation about referrals, right? And then we'll forget about it from right then until the closing table.
That's an amazingly high statistic.
It is
especially when real estate agents even spend more time than someone like myself that's may not ever meet some of my clients face to face.
Yeah.
Maybe on the phone. We talk back and forth, but you're like spending quality time at a house, in the car together sometimes, learning about the families, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And to hear that 86% don't even remember who they used or their face, it just goes to show you the amnesia that kind of goes on. You're only as good as your last transaction, or as good as your last communication in this case.
So those are three big ones.
Talk to 5 people
5 days a week
about real estate, 5 days a week.
Yeah. 10 months out of the year.
10 months out of the year. You get a 2-month break.
Just be consistent.
Yeah, be consistent. Consistency is good. Number 1 at something. Now, I always say this. What is your coolness factor? So if your number 1 is, what's your number 1 at something?
Yeah. So when I got in this business, I'll never forget, and I'll mention his name. He's a local guy, Danny Hale.
Yeah.
Here in Hendersonville.
Yep.
Used to
Great
come on Saturdays and mentor me when I first got in the business full time. And I said, I want your help. I want you to help me. I want to be this. I want to be you, right? Help me be you, which is another, I think, key factor in this. You got to find somebody to help you along the way, because this is, again, simple, not easy, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things, and he's the one that gave me the number 1. You got to be number 1 at something. And he said, what's it going to be? And I said, I'll be the number 1 agent, number 1 golf course home agent in Nashville. That's going to be my number 1. Because I'd grown up in the golf business. I'd done golf business between college and my job at the police department. I was in the golf business for a while. I knew people in the industry, knew the neighborhoods, kind of knew all about, the local market, local area, where the golf courses were concerned. And so that was my niche. And I dove into that niche, and I tried to learn everything about the neighborhoods that have golf courses, and learn everything about the real estate in those golf course communities. And in Middle Tennessee, right, in Sumner County, we've got 2 fantastic golf courses that happen to be around a lake, right? So that golf course knowledge, that golf course niche transitioned into lakefront, which most houses on the golf course or around the lake are pretty expensive, and that easily transitioned into luxury. So my niche became golf course luxury lakefront. So everything that I did was focused on that. And that's been in my real estate career, in my personal production, that's been my focus the entire time. So my price points are higher, right? I don't get overwhelmed by all the other noise and all the other stuff on the outside going on. I just focus on golf course luxury lakefront. Those are the 3 things that I do.
That's great. Great. And then, so when you, jumped into the business, obviously there's been all kinds of ebb and flows and peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
We're going through one right now in the industry where we're hoping to get out of this valley that we're in and see some action, some activity, people deciding to list their homes, buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. What was probably the worst year you've been in the business so far?
The last 2.
The last 2, yeah.
It's been...
we're going to say no shit on that
yeah,
one.
right. Stamp. That's
last 2 years have been the toughest.
The last 24 months have been unreal. They have been, and not just in the real estate piece. So kind of going back to that, I don't know where you want to go from here, but my transition from, and again, that we can talk about this in a second, but I had a pretty normal transition, a pretty normal real estate life cycle transitional period that you find with most people, right? I got in the business part-time. I found a moment to go full-time. I went all in. My business really started to grow. I made over $300,000 in commission my first full year in the business, right? So now I'm a big stud, right? And I think a lot about myself. I'm working 80 hours a week to make that money. There's really no harmony in my life. So I figure, okay, what the next best step for me is, why don't you become a team leader? Why don't you start a team? Why don't you bring people on, help them do what you've done, right? You can leverage their time and effort and energies to then you can reduce your time, effort, and then increase your income, right? But I was a really crappy team leader, just to be honest with you, because I never got behind that idea that I should get 60% of their commission or 50% of their commission, right? I never got behind being a team leader. I always said it was because I was full of myself. And my wife said, you weren't a bad team leader because you were full of yourself. You were a bad team leader because you gave too much money away. And people, why would they want to be on a team when they can go make that same commission someplace else, right? So I transitioned to a new company, started the team, and then pretty quickly after that got in and got into owning real estate companies. And which was kind of the ultimate, let's leverage other people's time, effort, and energies, right? Let's start to build a business, because the downside of this business is you can make a lot of money if you put a lot of effort into it. If you don't put a lot of effort into it, you're not going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
If something were to happen to you and you're the solopreneur, you're the only one out there doing it, that money's going to go away quickly.
Yep.
And as a sole provider, as I'm the one that's supposed to be out there shaking the bushes and shaking the trees and making the money, that was a tough down the road, conversation with myself.
Yeah, I always call it. And we're seeing it right now today. If you don't know how to hunt, if you don't know how to prospect, if you don't know how to go out and shake those bushes and rattle those trees, you're having a tough time right now. And the strong will survive, and that's why we're seeing the attrition rate of realtors and mortgage loan officers getting out of business.
Yeah.
Because they don't know how to hunt. Back in 2010, all you had to do is answer the phone.
Right.
Or not 2010, 2020. Excuse me, 2020.
Oh, yeah, you just wake up and you make money those years.
Yeah, you just wake up.
So I'll ask you a question. So in that, and why do you, because you, in the mortgage business, you bring people on that they've got to do the same thing, right? They go from a zero spot to now you have to go produce. You got to go shake a bush and shake a tree. What do you think the biggest factor from your seat is why people don't do that?
Why they won't
go out and prospect, why they won't go out and have conversations, why they won't go out and do those things.
Yeah, I'm probably a bad person to ask on that, because I think I have greater expectations of people than they have in themselves. So I always see the potential into people, and it's cost me a lot of money. Because I'll bring on people, and then next thing you know, they don't perform. I try to coach them up. I try to give them, because everybody's got a different personality, right? Your needs and wants are going to be different than Zach's needs or wants, or this other person down the street's needs and wants.
Right.
And everybody has such a different personality. It's like, okay, I can't do the same thing for him or her as I do for him or her over here. But so when you try to navigate through all that, then it's okay. I have this expectation of you. I think if you do this based on your feedback and based on the direction you want to go, I think you can do A, B, and C in your goals and measurables. And man, it's just amazing how many times it doesn't.
Yeah.
And I've had some great success stories, but far more of ones that have failed.
Yep.
And I think you said it kind of back here in this time frame between 2006 and 2013. I think fear just really comes into play, and people are just so scared of falling and not landing on their feet. And this society is even worse than it's ever been. And you get all the social media out there, and people see, oh, this person must be really doing well.
Right.
Oh, this person must be doing awesome. And there is a lot of smoke and mirrors that come with that, and they don't want to see themselves not being the light. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. We could go on and on about that just in itself, but that's probably the biggest thing, is just an and you and I have been through a lot of it together through different mediums. You've got to have a coach.
Yeah.
And I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on coaches. And what's amazing for people that are in any kind of sales that are commission based, where they're depending on themselves to hunt, why would you not want to invest in yourself?
Right.
And, you invest in your kids. If your son wants to go play hockey, you're going to get him all the gear. You're going to get him the best shoes or the best skates. You're going to get him in the best league. You're going to take him traveling. You're going to buy a hotel room. You're going to eat. But that same person may not invest $1,000 a month into helping get coached up and to motivate and have some accountability.
Right.
What do you probably add to that?
So I'm gonna go back to something you said a second ago, and I think this is a perfect segue for this. So when I ask you that question, the leadership definition of leadership per Stephen Covey in this book, The Eighth Habit. If you've not read The Eighth Habit, everybody knows the 7 Habits for Highly Successful People, but this is the subsequent Eighth Habit book. And leadership defined to Stephen Covey is leadership is communicating to people their worth and potential so clearly that they come to see it in themselves. To communicate the worth and potential of others, which is exactly what you just said. You see the potential. You know what's possible. But to be able to communicate that to someone else, so not only they hear your words, but they begin to internalize it and walk it out. See, if you were to ask me that same question, I would say the reason that people don't prospect is they don't have confidence.
Right.
And that confidence comes from fear. There's 2 forces in this universe, love and fear. Right. And the people that are in love with themselves, that are authentic to themselves, that are aligned with who they are as a person, that was one of the things that we always did as brokers. And I would say this to folks all the time. My job for you is to help you find the best version of you, to help you find the best, most authentic version of you, and then allow you to walk that out in confidence. Because if you wake up every single day in the understanding, one, you recognize your potential. You recognize your worth and what you can do. You understand your authentic, your worth and your authenticity on this planet, and you walk out in that confidence, and you have conversations with everybody. That's what makes you special. That's what makes me special. Is we understand there are people that like us. That's okay. There are people that don't like us. That's okay too.
Some will, some won't.
Next,
right?
And so being able to communicate to someone that you recognize that potential, but not stopping there. And this is not any slight at you, but this is something that I see in especially in this industry, is that we have brokers and folks who are in positions to lead others who may recognize potential, they may express that potential, but they stop right there. And then it's just like, now I've got to focus on my own survival, and I'm going to let you go figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
And then every 36 months in this industry, 100% of the people that get in get out. It's just a revolving door. And now we're seeing some of the effects of this, and we can talk about that too.
Well, one of the things that I know I changed in my business after, I always felt like I wanted to be a macro manager, which today I still am.
Right.
But I've realized I had to throw some micro in there. So now anybody on my team in sales especially, we have a weekly meeting.
Yeah.
And it's from 10 to 12 or 10 to 11 every Tuesday. And I got some pushback and I got some resistance when I first started saying, hey, this is a mandatory meeting.
Yeah.
And I mean, you would be amazed how many doctor's appointments, how many things come up.
Right there.
In that
1
hour.
Yep.
1 hour. And it started to become almost laughable.
Yeah.
And I finally had to come to Jesus with my team. And I said, listen, I am doing this to help you.
Right.
Everything that we learn in this hour and a half, if anything, is just to sit in a room and hear each other's stories about a transaction, a scenario, a guideline. Even if you don't care about anything I say,
sure,
it's to hear each other as a team and be together as a team. And I kind of, matter of fact, one of them said I was probably talking to them like a kindergartner, but it's okay because I don't regret it.
Right.
Because ever since that actual come to Jesus meeting, our meetings have been really good, and they've actually gone a little bit longer, hour and a half, more like an hour and a half. And the content of what we talk about ranges all over the place, and the value that they are getting together and collectively is way stronger than we could ever be if I was just going to you, having a conversation, then going to him to have a conversation, going to her to have a conversation, and hoping that all that stuff gets translated and I don't miss anything from person to person.
Sure.
So that's been probably my biggest thing, to try to get a leadership attribute that I've changed so that I'm getting better quality salespeople. And then I think you get into a lot of other things like disc profiling
Well, all that's a
love
part of,
languages and all that kind of stuff.
all that's part of building a team, right?
Yeah.
And not everybody can be a pitcher.
Right.
Not everybody plays catcher.
Right.
But if you've got the shortstop playing catcher and the catcher in center field, your team doesn't. You got to figure that out. You got to figure out where people fit.
Yeah.
Right. And so understanding where they all fit to make this thing roll together, you're building community. Like one of the beautiful things, again, what I just said was when I would have an interview, especially when we became a broker. Right. So when I became a broker, when my wife and I met, and we opened 7 offices. So we had 6 down in Georgia, and we had 1 in Mount Juliet here in Middle Tennessee with another company, another brand. And when we started that company, we had 4 agents. In 18 months, we got to 80.
Good.
In 18 months.
Yeah.
Okay. And
that can be good and bad.
It's bad when it gets past your infrastructure. It's good because it wasn't us. It was the agents. It was those individuals coming together, creating this team, creating this community, creating this vibe, this energy that they couldn't wait to go out and share with other people. And so they would go out and share with other people. Those people would come to our meetings, and we used to laugh. We'd call our meetings Real Estate Church. So we'd have every other Wednesday meeting, and we'd go as long as the Holy Spirit was moving. We'd stay in that meeting.
Yeah.
And James, there were 6 months where every visitor that came to our meeting joined our company because the vibe and the energy. I'm a big fan of energy and vibration. I'm a huge proponent of those two things. I think it's a natural law that's out there, right?
Oh yeah,
and
totally.
and what you're doing is exactly what we did. It's exactly what all companies do. But you have to start that on a micro level. Mm-hmm. You got to start that on an individual level because potential only gets you so far, right? If you're not producing results, if you're not actualizing that potential a lot of times for a lot of people can be super frustrating. Because if you have somebody with a lot of potential and you recognize that potential in them and you say, you can do this and you can do this and you can do this, yet we're not helping them uncover that potential. We're not helping them sort of break through the layers of their ego and their past experiences and all the things that they've conditioned themselves to believe about themselves, right? And all that potential just sits there and it just boils to the point they get frustrated and walk away. Somebody with no potential doesn't get frustrated that much.
No.
They're pretty good, right?
Yeah,
they're good to go.
They don't even know.
Could care less, right?
Yeah.
But somebody with really high potential that you recognize and you have those expectations of them, and then they don't feel like they can get out, it's just frustrating to most of those people.
So that kind of segues us into a little bit about what you're doing now. So you've experienced some different cultures. Mm-hmm. You've experienced some different models.
Yep.
You've experienced some different geographies, different
markets,
states, markets. And so you've kind of put that all together and said, okay, I am tired of kind of working for somebody else, even within this industry, because of what? What have you recognized that is missing from all these? Nothing that there's. Not that there's anything wrong with this company versus this company versus this company, but what have you collectively? Oh, that's awesome. That's really good.
That's nice.
Yeah. What have you collectively learned that you felt like you needed to be unique about?
Yeah, I think the transition. So we have obviously transitioned quite a bit in the last 24 months, and again, from one perspective, you look at that and say, y'all are never satisfied. You can't find, nobody likes you, whatever. From another perspective,
bounce around, whatever. Yeah.
From another perspective, it is you're learning all these things from all these different spots. You're getting your feet under you right here where you are, and you're coming back to where you're supposed to be, right? So we leave the one brand because we had it was a truly an issue of principle, and we were willing as leaders of that company to potentially burn that thing down because of something going on that we didn't stand for. And we had always said, if this happens, this is the choice we're going to make. And it happened, and we made the choice, right? And it didn't go like we thought it was going to go, quite honestly. We go to another company, a newer I won't name any names, but a very one of the largest independent brokers in the world, right? With people everywhere, and thought that was going to be a good fit for us. But what we found was, again, our number one focus has always been our individual agent. Our number one focus has always been, how are we going to help them be better, right? So when we make this transition to this company, what we found was what we thought was going to happen did not happen. And we weren't able to take care of our agents the way we were used to taking care of our agents. We weren't able to address their issues or get them to where they needed to be or do the things with them that we thought or they thought needed to be done, because there was a layer of bureaucracy between us and them, right? That wasn't going to work. We gave it a shot, thought that was going to work, and it didn't work. We made another transition to a company where we thought we were going to help them grow, expand, do what my wife and I are really, really good at, is helping people be better, growing markets, expanding brands. That's what we're really, really good at. Got into that and found that, you exert enough pressure on a system, it reveals weaknesses, right? And then when those weaknesses get revealed, you've got to make a decision. All right, are we going to stay here and endure this, or is there a better way to do it? And I don't know if we found necessarily, James, a better way to do it, but we found a way that we can impact more people, right? And so the collective was born. And the collective is sort of the birth, it's the in the infancy of all of these transitions from these different models and things that we've seen. There's 75,000 independent brokerages in the United States with 6 or 7 agents.
With what?
6 or 7 agents.
Okay.
So very small independent brokerages all over the country who are probably not making a profit.
Right.
Who are barely getting by, who are trying to figure out how they're going to eat, right? Some of these broker owners are probably having conversations every single day, either driving to the office or leaving the office. And the conversation goes something like this, while they're sitting at the red light. Why in the hell am I doing this? Because I promise you, we had that conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Why in the hell am I doing this?
Yeah.
I could just go back to selling real estate by myself and make more money.
I've definitely, even myself, thought that at times. Why don't I just originate somewhere? Why do I want to have all this space, all this stress, all
headache,
these people,
all the stuff I got to do?
I mean, I've had it as high as 40 people, and he's like, why?
Which is a conversation a lot of entrepreneurs have, right? It's like, why in the hell am I doing this, right?
Yeah.
And so in that, what we found, and like I said, the collective is in its infancy, where, not to get into too specific of what's going on, all the minutia, but the gist of it is, we're going to find a way, and we're putting these things together right now to bring additional revenue streams to those 75,000 independent brokerages across the United States. We're going to be able to bring into their companies additional ways for them to make money, while at the same time, through partnerships and relationships that Christy and I have built over the last combined 40 years in this industry, tools and technologies that they need to expand their market, expand their business, provide their agents what their agents need in this market today to compete with some of these bigger brands that have lots of tools and lots of technologies, right? We bring those things in at a discounted rate, so we reduce their overhead cost. And that's simple math. That's simple economics. You increase overhead and reduce cost, you increase profit.
So the collective then is really the umbrella for many things to possibly come. You go several different angles. You're going to have a real estate leg.
Yep.
What other kind of legs? You're going to have a coaching leg. And you already have that, called Drive, Reach, Gain, where if an agent wants a coach in life, right, they have that avenue to be able to fall under with you or through you. What else?
Well, I think that those are the two big
ones
pieces.
right now.
Yeah, those are the two big focuses right now. With the collective RE, the real estate piece, I think that's just for us, it allows us to do some personal real estate. It allows our agents to have a place to be. We've got a really good model that we're rolling out that again, there's nothing new under the sun in this business. Everybody's doing the same thing. There's no, it's everybody's the same model done different ways, right? I heard this a long time ago from a very experienced broker. He said, man, if I could make, $13,000 an agent a year, I'm really, really happy. if make $13,000 per agent per year, I'd be really, really happy. And there's tons of brokerages out there right now who aren't making that. Right. So there's not really anything new under the sun where the real estate piece is concerned. I think for us and our company, we're bringing back that desire to make those individuals better. And because
I mean, how do you make people better? Do you believe in a brick and mortar? Can you have making people better from a distance? I think a lot of companies, for example, thought Zoom was a great thing during COVID. Now they're finding out, and studies are being done where it's not such a great thing.
Yep.
They were talking about this quality of life, reduction in cost. But what they've really found now is people have way more distractions, right? If they're at home or not paying attention even when they're on Zoom. That's why I kind of forced my people to start coming in to the office. They're like, well, can't we just do it Zoom? No, I want you here. I want the computers off. I want the phones off.
Yeah.
I want to have your undivided attention for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
I don't ask anything else from you, but I just want that. And when I put it in that kind of context, it was really telling them, I don't want any distractions for our time together. And that's what major corporations are finding out. So how do you kind of create that same kind of environment or that same kind of culture with the collective? Especially in you're in multiple states.
Yeah. So right now we're in Tennessee, we're in Georgia, we're in South Carolina. And I heard this said by, again, we share a lot of the same coaching circles and some of the same coaches, and we've learned under a lot of people. And one of the things that really stood out to me is proximity is power. And when you get in the right room with the right people, it moves your needle.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
And you can watch a football season. Thank gosh, football season's back, right?
Oh.
SEC football's back. Thank you, Jesus. Love the fall.
Good Lord.
But
I mean,
you watch a let's use, and I'm not a UT fan, really. I'm not really
sometimes
just every now and again.
Rocky Top. I mean,
there's 8,000 people in that stadium when they play like an SEC team. There'll be 108,000 people there. Now you can watch that game on TV. You can sit on your couch where you're comfortable. You can have a short walk to the bathroom, get however many beers or Cokes or pretzels you need, and you can watch that game on your big screen, okay, and enjoy that experience, right? You talk to one of those 108,000 people that were there at the Alabama game and they beat Alabama and pulled the goalpost down. That is an experience they'll never forget their entire lives.
Right.
And I watched that game, but I can't tell you what happened.
Yeah.
But those people that were there
remember every detail.
Right. Because proximity is power. And so when I got chicken skin thinking about this, when you can be in concerts or in big sporting events and the collective energy of that room, of that stadium, of that experience flows through everybody. We're in Music City. You go to a concert and you get the chills because that collective energy affects everybody in that concert, right? So if you were to ask me, like, do I believe that as a leader, as a broker, somebody in this industry, can I drive people's production and behavior from a distance? A little bit. Can I get them to actualize their full potential from a distance? I don't believe you can. Because even if you look at some of these big brands that are virtual, they're all now transitioning back to offices. They have big, huge events they try to bring a lot of people to move that needle. It's not, they're starting now to have events and put people back in the same room because that's what we need.
That's what moves the needle.
That's what moves the needle. It's community. It's culture. That's how you make your office attractive. That's how you make your brand attractive. Is you built. It's what we did, right?
Yeah.
We made those meetings so much fun, and made that culture and community so attractive that another broker down the road said, "You can't get in there."
That's exactly why I built this room. I mean, I built it in the worst time you could be adding on to real estate, and that is in the last year and a half, 2 years. I opened this last August, and it was to create the community. It was to create attraction. It was to create advocacy and collaborate. this space we're sitting in right now, so we can get people into a room and talk and share and give value. This was the crazy. People thought I was crazy for doing this, and I still might be crazy.
Jury's still out.
Jury's still out. But we are having events here. We
Right,
are having people
right.
show up all the time, and that's what people do eventually want. They want that sense of community.
For sure.
And so that was just one extra thing that I did as well to try to create, more of that getting people in a room mentality. So what do you see based on what's going on in the real estate market? We're going to wrap this up, and it looks like we may even have to have a second episode because we haven't really even scratched the surface on a few things.
Oh, I'd love to. That'd be fantastic.
And so we'll have to, when you're cycling back through, we'll have to figure out how to get you back in here. But if people want to learn more about, not only the coaching aspect, but some of the uniqueness that you have with the collective, how you might bring value to another brokerage that might not be in great shape, or to intensify their bottom line, their profitability. How do they reach out to you and learn more, and so you can have a conversation with them? And your conversation is your number one something, right?
Yeah, you got
one of your number one somethings.
This business, this life's all about relationships, right? Our arms don't go behind us for a reason, right? They reach out here because you got to pull people in. They're out in front of us, so we can pull people in. So how you get in touch with me is Aaron, AARON.thecollective@gmail.com. That's an email address you can get there. We are drgthecollective.com on the internet. And
what about social media?
Yeah, so Aaron Dwyer Realtor Facebook, Aaron Dwyer Realtor on Instagram.
That's DWYER.
DWYER. Yep, it's 2 A's. Aaron.
Hey, Aaron.
Aaron and Dwyer. And you can find me, Aaron Dwyer Realtor, on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, just about every platform.
Well, man, it's always a pleasure having you in here. We will definitely figure out another time to have you come in and talk about some more cool stuff, whatever might be going on at that time, and maybe even an update on what's going on with the collective. And thanks so much for being in here. It's always good, and it's always easy conversation.
Yeah, man, enjoyed that. Appreciate it.
All right, take care.
Yeah, bud.
And we're going to see you next week on the Real Estate Halftime Show.